Welcome, Jai After Dark listeners, to another episode of, you guessed it, Jai After Dark.
True crime. Woohoo.
This is the truest crime I've ever experienced, and I don't know what to think. I think we're going to get into it, obviously, but hey, if your family members are dropping one at a time over a 16-year period, I don't know how long it's going to take someone to realize that the person with the funkiest name ever is probably the one that did it.
The call is coming from inside the house.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Hey, we're here to scare you again. This is Andrani's wicked stepsister, Jolly Joseph. She's the new focus. We will provide our wrath throughout the episode to her.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think she's guilty, and Netflix makes no bones about it. They start pretty much saying she's already convicted, but she is not convicted. So I just want to get that out there right now. Yeah.
They're like roasting her from minute one, but it's pretty wild.
Yeah, I didn't realize that she's still in prison, and we're talking about someone that's still ongoing trial, and it's very similar to last month's paid episode for our subscribers, Indrani Mukherjee Buried Truth, which you can also find on Netflix. So
yeah,
today's episode is also from Netflix. I would say it's a lot easier to watch. It's one sitting. It's about an hour and a half. It's not a mini series. So, hey, if you got 90 minutes and you want to see India's Bonnie and Clyde, I don't know. What's a female
India's Black
American
Widow? I don't know.
Yeah, is Black Widow a serial killer in the U.S.?
Yeah.
Who's a serial killer in the U.S. that's a woman?
I don't know. Dude, America doesn't have a female president. In South Asia, we have female presidents. We have female serial killers, and U.S. doesn't have female serial killers. So what's going on? It's all about this trailblazing South Asian women, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. And hey, really quick, R.I.P. to Kabir Singh, who was a great comedian. Shabnam, I think you guys actually knew each other, went to high school together. He had a bit on America's Got Talent where he says brown and black people cannot be serial killers in the United States because we're going to get fucking caught. And if you're a white serial killer, that's why they're all white, because they can blend in. So yeah, you got to go to India to become a serial killer if you're brown. He was totally right.
That's really funny. Wow. Man, R.I.P. Yeah. I didn't know him very well, but I went to high school with him. So really, really sad that he passed so young. Yeah. This one's called Curry and Cyanide. And I have to say, it's really gloomy these days and it's raining a lot. And all this like watching of Curry and Cyanide I'm doing, I'm like really gonna, right after this, I'm gonna do like a nice DoorDash order of some spicy desi food that's gonna really hit the spot in this weather.
Hold the cyanide, right? Hold the cyanide.
Yeah, hold the cyanide, exactly. Yeah. I'm gonna make sure to add that note in my DoorDash order.
So it's hilarious that this is called Curry and Cyanide. It seems like it's a racist play on a joke from 1995 that people would tell me in middle school or high school. I don't understand why they needed to call it Curry and Cyanide. Jolly Joseph knows how to cook, but that's about the extent of what I can see as a connection. I don't think she had a restaurant or anything, but Curry and Cyanide, why don't they just call it 7-Eleven turban owner and cyanide? Like, why don't they just do that if they wanted to get all racist?
Well, she did use the like food as a tool for, but actually sometimes she didn't. So you're right. I don't know. It's just a catchy phrase, but
it is funny. The initial credits, when it comes on, it scared the shit out of me. They have this like orange and black kind of scene. It's not like a very pretty onion, and they get this dull knife, and it's like chop, 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 chop. And I was like, oh shit. Like maybe she was a chef, and that's how the series starts. So I thought, like, yes, she's poisoning people, obviously, but yeah, she did it under the guise of like feeding her family members. But hey, we're laughing and stuff, but this is like a seriously unwell documentary to watch. Like, I hated it. Like, I hated every aspect of it.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's start out with the story takes place in
Mhm.
Kerala, India. And that's a city in South India. And before we get started, there's a few things you need to know about the people's names in this story. You'll notice a bunch of names are typically more English or Western names. And that's because of colonialism and Portuguese influence. But there are some South Indian names, which can be particularly difficult, but just sound them out. And then, however many letters you think they have, you're wrong. It's not enough. Add at least 5. And then, lastly, so many people in this story have hilariously ironic names, starting with the accused, Jolly Joseph, like Sameem said. She's not so jolly after all, I guess.
Oh man, it's funny because we just released Roshans, right?
Yeah.
On our free feed, and one of the Roshans, his wife is named Pinky, and me and you were talking about this, how there's Ruby and Pinky, and even my mom is Rumi, but that's not her name,
Hmm.
right? So there's a
Yeah.
lot of, I guess, nicknames, but I don't
Nicknames.
think this
Yeah.
was her nickname. This was her legit name. I
I
think this
think it
was
was
her
her legit
first name.
name.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was. So I don't know where they got it from. I mean, I know where they got it from, but it's kind of funny. Like we also discussed Julie, so they also pronounce it a little bit different. It's not like jolly, like it's not
Yeah.
a big O sound. So I was trying to see like
Jolly Joseph.
Jolie Joseph. No, dude, this lady's
Yeah.
behind you. I'll be like, what the fuck, Jolly? Get away from me. You wouldn't be like, Jolie, no, please don't kill me. So yeah, it's, you need to come really correct.
Yeah. So this mom named Jolly Joseph is taken into custody in the early mornings hours from her home. She's charged with killing her mother-in-law, father-in-law, her husband, and 3 others over a period of 14 years, like Sameem said. Without raising any suspicion, she got away with this for 14 years. So she was supposedly a faculty member of this National Institute of Technology, NIT, not to be confused with MIT, which is in Boston. She had a good connection with the church, appeared very family oriented and super well liked. But apparently, looks can be deceiving. So, just to going back to her names, and we've harped on that enough, but as a call out, as our listeners might know, we have Russell Peters. So Russell Peters' family is from the same area, and he always makes these jokes about why is his name Russell Peters, but he's from South India. And so if you're interested in that whole background, you can check his stuff out too. We saw him
Yeah, I was gonna bring
few
it up.
months
Yeah,
ago. Yeah.
yeah. And he literally brings it up, and I'm like, dude, you've been doing the same shtick since the '90s. But he's totally correct. I think his dad's name is like Dan Peters or something. He said, so it was even
Yeah.
worse than Russell Peters.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. So, police exhumed these 6 bodies to begin the investigation. And the lead investigator on the case, his name is KG Simon. And so he was a superintendent of police in this town called Kuratai, and he worked on the case of the death of Roy Thomas, the eldest son of the Panamatam family, which was a prominent family in South India. So, the investigation began because Roy Thomas's siblings filed a complaint, and the report stated that he died from cyanide poisoning, but didn't say how he was poisoned or any reason for a suicide attempt. So KG thought that sounded pretty cagey. So he got involved in the case. I told you all the names are ironic. So in 2019, when Jolly Joseph was arrested, KG interviewed her, and she just totally confessed. But her lawyer, B.A. Allure, says confessions in police custody should always be considered suspicious because the individual could be confessing under duress, which I
Yeah,
kind of agree with him, but not in this case.
but he also says that you cannot use that statement to prosecute. So I don't know if that's a law in India because here you can.
Yeah, here you can. You can totally use it, and you would use it. Just the lawyer would come in and challenge the statement in court, right? So whoever's giving the testimony about the statement, like a police officer or whatever it is, he would then question him on rebuttal to basically point out the shadiness of it, the caginess of it, if you will.
Yeah, and this lawyer gives me the same vibes as Indrani Mukherjee's lawyer did in Buried Truth. He's just one of these uncles that we talk about, and he's like, I'm right, you are all wrong. Reasonable doubt all the way around. I'm like, yeah, he's actually completely correct. And we can talk about it throughout the episode, but there's no hard evidence other than her confession.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, if you squint and you look really hard, the sky kind of looks a little green, right? That's what I mean. That's
Yeah.
he's like that
These
type.
guys, yeah, their
Yeah.
reasonable doubt is very minimal. And I remember in Andrani's episode as well, it's like, okay, everything's pointing towards your client, but you're using the one small thing that you can. There's not a whole lot of reasonable doubt. So
Yeah.
she fucking did it. I'm going to be very open and honest here. But
Both Jolly and Indrani, right?
yeah, I mean, Andrani straight up is just,
Yeah.
I don't know what she's thinking, but they're two different kinds of sociopaths that we're
Yeah,
talking
for
about.
sure.
But I
Yeah.
think their internal struggles were very similar growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. Somewhat similar. Yeah, for sure. So Nikila Henry, one of the reporters covering the case, said neighbors were upset and had contradicting opinions on Jolly. Some said she was jolly, but others said she had a dark side. So Nikila brings up two interesting points in Jolly's favor. She says people were prejudiced against Jolly, calling her katapana or high range, saying she was from the mountain small town, so she must be crazy and murderous. And basically, she's a hick, so she probably murdered someone. Secondly, Nikila felt like the media went wild with the story and didn't give Jolly a fair shake either.
Yeah.
I found that interesting. This whole she's in the city and they're like, oh, you're like a small town criminal, like that immigrated to our city or something. Like, I don't know. It's kind of funny.
I mean, people are scared of the unknown, right? Not to get all political, but people are scared of the unknown. And
yep.
Yes, there's no crime in the big city. Come on. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
This
seriously.
poor little Jolly, she got suckered into this. You made her a murderer.
Yeah.
By going to the city. No, I'm just kidding. Who knows? There's not a lot of history. I think you're about to get into how she actually got into this family, but there's not a whole lot of history before she joins this family that we can point to for her life.
Yeah. Except what I'm about to tell you, which is Nikila does some digging to figure out who is Jolly really. So Jolly grew up with a family of farmers and she wasn't used to having a job for a living and she didn't really want one. Nikila says she was flamboyant. She wanted to live a cool life. And then they show these pictures of her wearing a Park and Lane t-shirt.
Yeah.
I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
It was the craziest thing.
This is the only part of the documentary where I get some weird vibes in the sense that there might be some sort of cover up because she's wearing sunglasses and the Park and Lane t-shirt and high-waisted jeans that are stonewashed.
Yeah.
But
and like a pearl necklace with it.
And like a pearl necklace, but like
yeah.
when you're a teenager, it looks like she's like 12 to 16 or something in these pictures. I don't know. My daughter wears my big shirts as a joke sometimes. And she's like, look at me. So it was really strange that they picked one or two random photos and then they were like, oh, she wanted to be a badass.
Yeah.
She just wanted to be cool. She wanted to be so cool. And that's what the journalist says. I was like, dude, what are you talking about? Who told you that? She went back 25 years and someone told you that she wanted to be cool. So
she's
not
like
evidence.
on a bike. Yeah, she's like on a bike with her super 80s look. And they're like, she just really wanted a high life. It's like, okay.
Everyone looked like that. You know what?
Yeah.
You posted a picture today of your dad in Vegas and he looked super cool too.
Yeah.
And from the 70s or 80s, from whenever that picture was. So everybody looked 70s. Like that. And you can't, I don't know, it's kind of strange to use that as a way to say she didn't want a job because she didn't want a job. That part's actually obvious.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So eventually, Jolly got married into this very buttoned up and educated family from a totally different part of the South Indian state. They all had jobs for a living. She thought this would give her a life of luxury that she wanted. And that's a hypothesis from the people in the documentary. We're not hearing that from Jolly. So, like, who really knows what her thought process was? But I don't know. It's interesting. So then we meet Rojo Thomas, Jolly's brother-in-law, and Renji, her sister-in-law. They tell us that their family was from a really well-respected family of professors. So Jolly and Roy actually fell in love writing each other love letters. And so it was just like old school snail mail love letters, like before the internet. And Jolly was the daughter of their uncle Matthew's wife's brother, apparently. So then Renji takes this cheap shot at Jolly, and she's like, I was surprised at how short she was and how high her heels were, especially since normal girls don't wear heels all the time. I was like, rare. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Hey, so Renji's got it out for her, right? So
Yeah.
these are strange, strange things. This is not evidence. None of this points to murder. So a lot of it is, oh, she wears high heels, so she must be a bad woman. Come on. Like,
Yeah. A lot of it's just weird, petty ass like shit, I
totally.
feel like.
It's
Yeah.
very, some of it's so dissy. Like,
Yeah.
because Renji is the one that is prominently featured throughout the
Yeah.
documentary. I would say she's like 65% of the talk time.
Yeah.
And she is the one that's pushing all of this. But 95% of her stuff is like sus and sauce drama, right?
Yeah.
And it's, oh, you didn't cook, you didn't have the chai ready when my in-laws came from this town, you must be
Yeah.
a complete bitch. It
Yeah.
really does go off the rails like that. It's like one small thing, and then she's like, I was not sad when she did that. So I'm not making
Yeah.
fun of Renji. She lost 6 of her family members, but she knows she did it, but there's no evidence. So then they have to point to
Yeah.
all these sort of circumstantial things that aren't really evidence. They're just showing that Jolie was a total weirdo.
Yeah. And so Jolly fills Roy with lots of joy, or vice versa, if you know what I mean. And he becomes serious about this jolly life with her.
Stop it. What are you doing? Jolly fills Roy with lots of joy, and he becomes serious about his jolly life. Say it 15 times in a row. Hey, if anybody can say it 15 times in a row, send us a video. Let's say it again. Anyway, Jolly
Yeah.
fills Roy with lots of joy, and he becomes serious about his jolly life. So it's actually not
She
that bad.
sells seashells by the seashore.
Yeah, if a woodchuck could chuck, I think that woodchuck would chuck. I don't know if that's it.
No, it's how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
How much Jolly could a Roy get if Jolly didn't kill him?
Oh, man.
Paid feed, not for public
Yes.
consumption.
So now Renji tells us that apparently his father didn't approve of the relationship because Jolly was related to the family. This smells like total bullshit because she
What?
wasn't. Yeah, she wasn't even related by blood, and they see people get married to people they're related to by blood all the time.
You would have sent a fucking rickshaw for her. Send the whole town to go get her. She's part of the family. That's an instant approval stamp.
Yeah,
Like
like
just bring her in.
tick mark
No,
in the pro
yeah.
column.
We don't
Yeah.
need to know anything else. We don't need to know if she's educated. We don't need to know what her life goals are because hey, let's just bring her in. But no, we're being facetious, but
Yeah.
I can make a distinction here. I think Pakistan is a lot more into marrying cousins and
I
family
don't think really, you think
khandans.
so? I
Oh,
think
100%. Cousins in
I
particular, Pakistan is way more than India.
I think that this is a cover for the real reason was that they were this white collar family and she's a blue collar family. And because the
You didn't
next
want to
thing
say it?
that Renji
Yeah.
says, yeah, exactly. The next thing that Renji says is that Jolly told everyone she was a professional with a master's degree in commerce and economics, which they loved. So she was like, I'm really in love with this guy. And you guys think I'm from like a farming family and you guys are like, you know, all shishi and white collar. So I'll just tell you, I have this master's degree in economics. That's what I think it was.
Yeah. Oh, everything about this is fucked from top to
Yeah.
bottom. Her educational background, where she even came from. The parents are nowhere to
Mhm.
be found. I think her dad visits like one time or something like that. And then
Yeah.
we're going to get there. I don't want to jump ahead just because shit's pretty shocking what she does. We haven't even gotten to it.
Yeah. So the couple, Roy and Jolly, end up getting married in 1997, and it rained heavily on their wedding day. You know, it's like rain on your wedding day. And turns
sign.
out that was a bad omen. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So Jolly moved into the Bonamatam household with her parents-in-law, siblings-in-law, and her husband Roy. So when Jolly's husband would go to work, she'd hang out with her sister-in-law Renji and go shopping. So Jolly's mother-in-law was like, "Hey, you're really educated. Why don't you get a job, Jolly?" But the thing is, Jolly completely lied about her education. So to avoid pressure from her mother-in-law to work, she got pregnant. So, I don't know, I find this strange too that the mother-in-law is so forceful about trying to get her to work. Like, everything about
We
the story is strange. Like,
Yeah,
I feel like there's so many classist elements to this. Like, it almost feels like they're like, "Bitch, get to work," you know? And that's not super desi unless they're like, "You better show us you're good enough for our white collar, upper class, educated family," you
yeah.
know?
I
I
think it
don't
might
know.
be the latter, that they
Yeah.
are an educated family and the women in their household did work
Mhm.
and they wanted her to work, particularly because I don't know if they went along with the lie that she had a degree in economics, but I think they went along with it. I think they knew that she didn't have it, or maybe she had something like just some. I don't know what they call the schools there. They called it like pre-college or something that she had, but she didn't actually have the master's degree. But I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in India. It's 1.3 billion people. I'm sure there's some families there that are okay with the women working. I don't
Yeah.
think
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a
Oh,
vast
yeah.
net that we can. I mean, you're a lawyer yourself, right? Like, I understand you didn't grow up in India or Pakistan, but India is pretty education heavy, and the state that they live in actually is a lot different than the rest of
Yeah.
India, and they make that
Yeah.
distinction in the beginning of the documentary.
I'm not saying that it's weird that her family was
Hmm.
educated or that they'd be happy that she wanted to work. It just feels that the amount of pressure she got to work from her
Yeah,
in-laws, it feels there's something more than just they wanted her to exercise her right for her own improvement. It feels like they're really trying to make sure that she appears like a high enough status for their family. That's what
yeah.
I feel like, but
I mean,
yeah.
we know what happens next, right after they say this in the documentary. So maybe she was getting a lot of pressure, and
Yeah, for
she
sure.
snapped, or she's just crazy. But yeah,
Yeah. So then she gives birth to her first son, Ramo. And her mother in law says right after she gives birth that I'll take care of the baby and you can go to work. So Jolly was in another pickle with her mother in law's pressures. And all her lies come to a head because to top it off, her father comes to visit and her mother in law was going to discuss the whole situation with her father. So, what happens next? Well, the family has breakfast the next morning. They're playing loud music and they're all chilling. Jolly's mother in law grabs a glass of water and goes to lie down. And after a while, Renji goes to check on her mom and she sees that her mom's really weak. Her mom's kind of tearing up and she's like lying down and she says to her daughter, "I'm going to die. Tell the family." So they rush her to the hospital, but she dies 5 minutes after reaching there. So the family is totally devastated, but at the same time, they believe it was a stroke because she has a history of that in her family. And so
yeah.
they have no reason to insist on an autopsy, and they don't. And this is 2002.
This is quick. She was married
Yeah.
in 1997, so
Yeah.
this is around the time. So I I think she did it, and I think everybody thinks she did it. My only issue with this documentary, and we always say the same thing every time we talk about Netflix, is how do they know the timeline?
Hmm.
So the way that they're recounting this is other people that were not there. So the police commissioner, one of the journalists, they are saying he goes upstairs. He goes, or sorry, the mom takes a glass of water from the kitchen. She goes into the room. It might be
Yeah.
Renji telling the story, but a lot of it is very convenient in terms of the
Yeah.
storytelling. And we'll
Hmm.
get there to the next five murders. It keeps
Right.
going. But yeah, so the mom was the first victim. And it was a sad scene because I can see a mom, like a matriarch of a Desi family, just being like, I don't want to be a burden. I'm going to go into this room and die. I
Yeah.
could
It's really
totally see
sad.
that. It's really
Yeah.
sad, but she wasn't going to make any sort of spectacle within the kitchen. She's like, I'm about to die. I'm just going to go die.
Yeah. It's really, really
I'm
sad.
being serious. I could see
Yeah. I know.
that.
I know.
Like a
Yeah.
Desi auntie, a Desi mom would, especially over the age of 55, 60. She was pretty
Yeah.
young. They said she was
Yeah.
old, by the way. She wasn't old at all. She was like 58.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, seriously. It's crazy. So after that funeral, Jolly goes on a power trip and she starts being a total bitch to Renji, not letting Renji do anything without her permission. Jolly takes over the matriarchal duties of the family. She tells Renji she isn't going to work because she needs to take care of the household and her father-in-law. So, this new role gives her a newfound respect and attention from the community and the family. Jolly even gets a job as a guest lecturer, though, at the nearby university NIT where her in laws worked, supposedly.
Yeah.
So, more on that later. So, in 2005, Renji gets married and moves to Sri Lanka with her husband. So, now she's like totally away from the family. And I think she's probably like doing her own thing for a while. But she notices her dad comes to visit her once shortly after she gets married, and then a second time 3 years later in 2008 for a month. And that's when Renji notices that her dad isn't looking really healthy and he's losing a lot of weight. So she starts kind of like thinking a little more about it. But to your point, it's like, it's not necessarily Jolly's fault that the dad's aging, you know?
Yeah. And at the same time, he's telling Renji that he's upset that Jolly seems to be carrying on a relationship with one of the cousins from the family
Yeah.
named MS Matthew. And I
Mm-hmm.
think he's her husband's first cousin. So this is around the time where I'm saying like they're introducing a storyline when they're about to say what happens to the dad. So it's really convenient the way they introduce things in this episode, and we're not actually sure what the timeline is because the dad is dead. So he's the one that
Yeah.
had the issue with MS Matthew, but how and who
Yeah.
says this? Because it's not Jolly saying it.
Yeah. This is some like total messy ass shit too. It's like, wow, this is like a Desi soap opera here.
Yeah, and if they
And
worked at NIT and she did too, but as the audience can probably tell, she was faking a lot of her accolades. So
yeah.
how involved were they? I don't know.
Right. Yeah. So the dad also tells Renji apparently that he notices that Jolly's been sneaking around, talking on the phone a lot, going out randomly, and he confronts Jolly about this and she basically just makes excuses. So then, randomly, surprise, surprise, one day, Jolly gives her father in law his medication and he collapses. So, after giving him a good 20 minutes or so to die, she takes him to the hospital where he dies in a few minutes. So, when Renji asks why it took so long for her to take her dad to the hospital, Jolly says
Hmm.
she was looking for the car keys and she couldn't find them. And
Wow.
so yeah, it was kind of crazy. But everyone assumed again that Jolly's father-in-law died of a heart attack and no autopsy was done yet again. That was 2008.
Six
So
years
yeah, now we're up
between the mom
to
and the dad.
two
Yeah.
murders. Yeah.
Man.
Then Roy tells his siblings that the father's will gifted his entire property to Roy and Jolly. So Renji and Rojo, the two other siblings, confront their older brother and Jolly about the authenticity of the will, and they drop the issue. So that's already suspicious because if it was a legit will, why would you drop the issue?
Yeah, this is where a lot of this doesn't make sense and we're talking about it out loud, but the dad didn't know he was going to pass, right? He got murdered. It's obvious.
Yeah.
But this will issue, and it continues to persist throughout the documentary until the very end. And I still don't really understand how, unless it was just straight up forgery, which I think it was. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was a forgery, and we'll touch on the will part later because there's more coming on that.
yeah,
But after this, Jolly and Roy start fighting a lot because, obviously,
she's
forgery,
crazy.
murder. Yeah, forgery, murder, they all put like a lot of pressure on your marriage, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So Roy finds out
Mm-hmm.
about Jolly's affair with MS Matthew. And
Coolest
then
name ever.
yeah.
Sup?
And
I'm
then
MS, multiple sclerosis Matthews.
he
Sorry,
probably has
that's
some
fucked up.
really hardcore, like difficult South Indian name. And then his last
Yeah,
name's Matthew. So they're like MS
Mrs.
Matthew.
They call him Mrs. They're like Mrs. Matthews, MS, Mrs. Matthews.
Oh man. So then on September 30th, 2011, Jolly gave the kids an early dinner and put them to bed by 8 p.m. When Roy came home after work, he ate this really wonderful chickpea curry Jolly made for him for dinner. And he was later discovered lying in the bathroom with foam coming out of his mouth.
Yep.
Dun, dun, dun.
And
So
same
2011.
thing. Yep,
Yeah.
3 years later. And
Yeah.
again, she's super calm. She doesn't make a scene. She's like, "Oh, he's in the bathroom. He's sick." And then I think somebody else, the neighbor, comes and discovers him because
Yeah.
she, as you said, waited for the dad to die about 20 minutes. She does the same thing with the husband, as
Yeah.
recounted by the storytelling that they're saying. Again, we don't know what the timeline is, but the neighbor does say that he's the one that went into the bathroom and he saw the foam
Yeah.
coming out of Roy's mouth. So it wasn't Jolly that found him; it's Jolly that killed him.
Yeah. So in addition to the neighbor that night, Roy's uncle, Munchadil
Mhm.
Matthew, another Matthew, shows up to help with the situation. And he insists on an autopsy, and they discover that Roy was killed by cyanide poisoning. Finally, one freaking
Yeah.
autopsy.
Yep.
So to explain this, Jolly tells everyone that Roy committed suicide because he had so much debt and couldn't pay back money he borrowed from people. And so the family was like sufficiently embarrassed. They dropped the issue. However, no one ever came forward saying he owed them money. I thought this
Yeah.
was super interesting because what's one thing you can say to these families for them to drop something? You come out with like some dirty laundry that's going to shame them. Then they'll be like, okay, forget it. Like, let's not talk about it anymore.
Yeah, we don't wanna talk about that. Ew, he had debt. He had debt that
Yeah.
he didn't have debt, it sounds like. She just made it up, but
Yeah.
he probably had debt. But then they also called him an alcoholic, right? Yeah, so she's just,
Ah.
like, shitting on people that she's killing, and they're already in the ground, and she's like, "Oh, he was also an alcoholic. Oh, he was in debt. He must have killed himself," and she doesn't say he must have killed himself, she just straight up says he killed himself, like,
Yeah.
she has a story for everything.
Yeah. So she should have worked in Hollywood. But Roy's siblings then discover that Jolly had started transferring the parents' property into her name. The transfer was based on Roy's father's will, but the copy of it that the local government had was actually notarized and stamped, unlike the copy that Jolly and Roy had given to Rojo and Renji after their father's death. So luckily, Renji told Rojo to keep that copy and they still had it. And with it, they proved that the version that Jolly had provided for the ownership process was forged because basically at the time that the two siblings were presented with this will, they were like, this isn't notarized, this isn't legitimately signed. And so it seems like what Jolly and her husband did was go back and forge those parts of it and then use that to transfer the property into their name after the fact behind their siblings' back. So that
Yeah.
was like a crazy little turn of events.
And if all of this is true, she used him to get the house, and then she had the foresight for years, probably, that she knew she was going to kill him the whole time,
Oh, yeah, that's so
right?
true. Yeah.
Like there was no other way. I thought about that when I was watching it. This wasn't a act of passion. This was a
Mhm.
very thought out killing. The mom and the dad could have been a little bit shorter time frame
Mhm.
because her dad was coming to visit and she didn't want the family to find out through the dad all the education stuff and her job, lack of job. So she killed the mom really quick. But like, I don't know. This one seemed really bad. Like this one seemed
Yeah.
it gets worse.
Yeah.
Uh,
It seems like she
it-
becomes like she's
addicted.
more and
Yeah.
more of a strategic planner of murder as time goes on.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem to be for any real planning purposes. It's just like her default way to deal with things seems to be murder.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
she's
it's
just like,
wild.
"Oh shit, I need to cut this line's really long. Maybe I should cut and kill everyone in front of me."
Yeah. I know, it's crazy. Yeah,
You
man.
don't want this bitch at Costco.
Yeah, seriously. Munchadil Matthew, who remember is the father of Jolly's lover, also kept in touch with Renji, who's Roy's sister, and would tell her what's going on at Jolly's home. So even though Renji's all the way in Sri Lanka, this uncle of theirs is being like kind of a spy, and he found out that she's having an affair with his son also. And so all that played into the fact that he was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to kind of share information with the family and with Renji specifically.
Yeah, I guess we know what
So,
happens.
yeah.
This
And
is
so,
ridiculous. This is getting ridiculous.
yeah. So then in 2014, Munchadil Matthew dies
What?
from suspicious causes
Come
of
on.
poisoning. You're right. This bitch can't go to Costco.
She can't go anywhere. She's gonna bump you and you're gonna fucking fall dead.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, so another thing that they point out during this small montage while they're introducing the uncle and the cousin that she's having an affair with is that they say the cousin works at a jewelry shop in town, which turns out to be super important later. But yeah, she kills him, but for right reason. He was suspicious. He's also, again, the one who wanted the autopsy for Roy.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to kill him. You know, you can't can't get too close to the truth.
Yeah. So KG says there are 6 murders over 17 years, with progressively less time between each murder. So Jolly was, like we talked about, perfecting her poison over time, pun intended. So then Jolly decided she wanted to get married again. So she sets her sights on Shaju Zacharias, Roy's cousin. Apparently, there's no eligible bachelors in this city except Roy's cousins.
The smallest version of Pakistan you've ever discovered in Kerala, India exists.
Yeah. Yeah. What were you saying about people not marrying people's cousins in India?
Hey, this gets a lot worse.
Yeah.
What she does to this guy.
Yeah. So Shaju was married though. So to a wife named Silly. And
Silly Billy, poor Silly, man.
Yeah,
she didn't
poor
deserve
Silly
it.
Man.
Yeah. This is getting ridiculous. Like it almost does not sound real. Like I had my composure up until now, and this is just crazy. What was it? What are you about to describe? The fifth murder, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
This is insane.
Yeah, and this entire documentary feels really unserious when you get to this part. It's really crazy. And so Shaju and Silly had 2 kids, Alfine and Abel. Again, like these are some really unique names. So on May 1st, 2014, the family was celebrating Abel's Holy Communion and they had a large meal together. So during the meal, suddenly Alfine, who's 2 years old, begins to shake while she's being fed by her aunt. Her aunt, guess who? Jolly. Silly is distraught and Alfine is rushed to the hospital. The family thought the child had choked, but it was later learned that she was poisoned. Well, this was really bizarre because I'm like, why would she kill a 2-year-old?
But did they say she was poisoned? Because I thought they did not do a autopsy on the baby.
Well, I have that they found that she was poisoned. I don't know. I guess it must be through autopsy, right? But I'm thinking, don't you think maybe it was an accident? I feel like maybe she meant to kill the mom, but she accidentally killed the 2-year-old. You know, that's what I feel like probably
exactly
happened.
what I thought. I thought that she like gave her some of the food that Jolly brought over to the mom, but I did think that this could also just purely be a choking accident. I don't know if they said she was poisoned because at the end of this series they say 2 people were poisoned. And those 2 people are Silly and Roy. Those are the only 2.
They're for sure are poisoned.
For sure. Because they exhumed the bodies, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And from the first 2, they couldn't find anything. But, well, I guess I dropped...
you dropped a spoiler?
Bag.
Yeah, but I mean, like, look, there's no spoilers here. Everybody dies. Okay, she kills everyone.
There were 6,
so, yeah.
The first thing it says is there were 6 deaths. So,
yeah.
But the 5th one, this one that we're talking about right now, I had no idea. I thought it was going to be the mom. I thought it was going to be Silly. And also the timeline is pretty insane.
Yeah.
That she killed the baby in 2014.
Which is only 2 years after, right? Or
the
same year.
After. It was the same year.
It was the same year, yeah. It's crazy.
But they never suspected Jolly. They thought it was just like a separate death, right? That a lot of what the family members are saying, including her son, who says, "This is not my mom," by the way. That's the first thing he says. Like, that woman cannot ever be my mom.
Her.
He disowns her. They all say that we thought we were just like, you know, living in a world where this was common for our family members to come to death, an accidental death. So they didn't think it was Jolly. But this part, you know why? It's because she didn't want to take care of the baby.
Yeah.
And she did marry the dad.
Yeah.
But the mom's still alive. So this bitch is crazy. This is
so crazy.
Hardcore extreme planning. This is like more planning than what? Like, not to make a political reference, but like, it's a lot more planning than what's going on today, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, she was in her own little world.
So backing up, we're going to tell you how we got to all these deaths. So this is after the death of the baby girl Alfine.
After.
Yeah. She then, Jolly, befriends Silly and they become super close. So Silly is struggling with depression. Jolly is jolly, so she's going to help her. She tells her, my father in law used to take these mushroom capsules and it helps with his depression. So Silly starts taking quote unquote mushroom capsules. So eventually, I don't know how this happens, but somehow she goes to the dentist's office with Silly and her husband Shaju. And while they're in the waiting room at the dentist's office, she gives Silly a capsule of cyanide, telling her, take this mushroom capsule. It'll make you feel better. And then Silly dies in the waiting room with her husband, Shaju, and her new best friend, Jolly. Man. Then, even though the dentist's office insists on an autopsy, Shaju, Silly's husband, refuses the autopsy. This is so shady. Yeah, these men are like whipped.
Yeah, I'm starting to, and so now we've described all 6 murderers, and the theory out there is, since in the beginning of this episode we said she has not been yet convicted, that Shaju's involved.
Yeah.
That's the defense right now, is that Shaju did this, but Shaju didn't kill the dad and the mom in 2002 and 2008. So, and come on, mushroom capsule, that's what she gave the dad.
Yeah,
back in 2002. Exactly. So, like, shore up your murder tactics, right? Doing the same shit 14 years later in the same city to the same family.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's also crazy because why would Shaju want to take her side at all in anything, because his daughter's dead? But that's why I'm like, I don't know, maybe he did think it was a choking, like a fluke choking thing. I don't know.
All I can think is she's probably providing him some stuff that he really likes.
Some sexual favors.
Yeah, she seems a little freaky. She wanted to be cool, remember?
Yeah, exactly. She's cool. Flamboyant, as they say.
Flamboyant, swinging bachelor. Jolly the bachelor. We should also say that they had another child, Silly and Shaju, and he was a little bit older, Abel. So she spared him, I guess.
Yeah, because he's old enough to like fuck off on his own, probably. So she's like, yeah, I'll just ignore him. Like, that's probably what it was. I don't know. But so somehow Jolly is the one preparing for the funeral arrangements for the event. Yeah. It's like so wild. It's like
her family already.
Yeah. And so then that day, Renji, she looks at Jolly and she sees that in Jolly's eyes, she sees some kind of happiness. And Renji says she just felt like really shocked and stunned. And she started thinking that maybe Jolly killed Silly and Alfine to marry Shaju without having a small child to take care of, like you mentioned earlier. And then, surprise, surprise, she marries Shaju in 2017 and they have the ugliest fucking wedding cake known to man. What was that?
It just says their names on it. It's like, it gave The Office is your birthday vibes, like that cake.
Yeah.
Oh no, it didn't even say that. The sign said it is your birthday, and then the cake was empty. It was just white. The one they got for Kelly.
Oh, on The Office, right?
In The Office, yeah.
Yeah. This one had 2 yellow roses randomly with like jacked up writing. Their names were written in red frosting, but it almost looked like they probably got able to do it. Like, she's like, you better write our names on this or I'm going to kill you. Cause it was like the shittiest child writing that looked like, some kid did it who was really nervous. It was terrible.
It's insane. Like, you do all this biodata, family research, history before you bring somebody into your family. And they literally had this lady in their household for almost 20 years by this point, and she murders half of them.
Yeah, she's like picking them off one by one.
Yeah, and then they still marry her back into the family.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. She killed her husband, and they're like, hey, take our cousin now. Like,
yeah,
you killed his wife, all good. You killed his kid, all good. Like,
damn, yeah.
Like, Renji suspects it, sure, but again, as we said, these are recollections by Renji, by other people from the family, and we don't know what the actual timeline is. So Renji's story is quite likely, but it could also be made up a little bit because the timeline is off. Like, hey, if there's 6 deaths like this, it could be coincidental, especially because they're 14 or 16 years apart, but I don't know. Seems a little bit too coincidental.
Yeah, I agree. So Renji starts looking into the matter more. She asks for Roy's death certificate to begin with, and she notices that his time of death is 11:20 p.m. and that the food that he last ate, rice and chickpea curry, were undigested. So cyanide affects the body right away, but Jolly had told Renji that Roy last ate at 3 p.m. the day he died. So this was obviously not true, and that stuck in Renji's mind. It's weird because that's such a small detail. You'd kind of be like, what's the big deal if she forgot when he ate? But like, I guess it's important since she's poisoning him through his food. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like random that she was like, aha, like she's like Sherlock Holmes or something. But
I mean, she probably couldn't help herself either. She was also around all six people, and it was all food related, or
yeah.
mushroom capsule related. So at some point, it's like a little bit too obvious that she did it, but it took
Yeah.
this family a long time to figure it out.
Yeah. So that's when they realize Jolly was behind all the deaths. And she meets with KG Simon and she tells him everything, apparently. So KG, the police officer, says he'd investigate the whole set of murders, but it's a pretty long shot because these are such old cases over such a long period of time. So at the start of the investigation, they tried talking to people she worked with at NIT to, find out about her alibis or whatnot. And basically, they find out that nobody by her name works there. So apparently, she'd been faking this job for years. So she made herself an ID card that was fake and held herself out in the community to be this like teacher. And she wasn't even a teacher. So they dug deeper and they found out that actually she also forged her degree documents showing she graduated from college and got a master's degree when all she really did was graduate from high school. So she's a pretty good forger in addition to being a murderer. Talented.
Yeah.
What can I say?
And they also say that Roy's dad was an educator as well, and he had an educational consultancy with a lot of resumes and ID cards that would come across his desk. So that's how she forged these documents. But
yeah.
did he help her? Because it kind of seems like the parents knew that she was not educated, and they were telling people that she was. And
maybe
it's not their
that's an
fault.
interesting point.
Yeah, I think they knew. Yeah, I think he helped
Yeah,
her.
and yeah, he helped her forge her documents maybe to get a job, but she didn't even want to work. Maybe
no, she just wanted she just wanted an easy ass life, and she thought this was her meal ticket. And it's not just meal ticket, right? It was also the power that she was trying to accumulate. But how much fucking power can you get out of a middle class family in India? It's just, but she came from nothing, so I totally understand. Actually, I don't understand. That's a little bit too far to go.
Yeah. So then one day, Remo, Jolly's son, is home from college and he picks up some legal documents delivered to the door of their home. So he learns that his aunt and uncle are accusing his mom of several suspicious deaths in the family. So Jolly tells Remo to convince his aunt and uncle to drop the case. So he calls them in good faith, believing his mom's innocent, and he gets an earful from his aunt Renji. So eventually, Renji and Rojo convince police to exhume and test the bodies. They get a lot of criticism from the community for disturbing the dead as well. But this is how they can obviously test the body for poison. So they go with it anyways. Remo, on the other hand, says that when he saw his mom at home that day after talking to his aunt, she was totally panic stricken. So Remo says he interrogated his mom and eventually she admitted to him that she killed everyone. So he calls Renji to let her know that his mom has confessed. And then Renji warns him about eating or drinking anything in the house because Jolly might still have the cyanide and might just kill him too. This is wild.
That right there. I'm glad you said that because I have a very wild take after you describe the rest of the investigation.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to save it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the next morning, Renji calls the superintendent of police and gets Jolly arrested. So Renji goes to the home to get her nephews and get the boys out of the house, and they leave and go to Renji's house. So Jolly is interrogated then for like 6 days straight and tells KG that she read about cyanide in the newspaper and how it can easily kill people. She also learned that goldsmiths have easy access to it. So like you were saying earlier, Sameem, MS Matthew, it turns out, was a salesman at the jewelry store, the one she was screwing on the side. So she befriends him and screws him and asks him to get the cyanide, saying she wanted it to kill a stray dog that keeps coming into the house. So then police search her home, which was the Bonamatam home, and they find the bottle of cyanide. And her lawyer says that the evidence was planted by the police to fit their narrative. And he reasons that no one would be dumb enough to leave the bottle of cyanide there. And I was like, he might be onto something.
So when you said that Renji is like, I have to call the police and I got to warn Remo to not eat or drink anything in the house because Jolly must still have the cyanide. Keep in mind, this is 2019. And the last murder was 2016.
That's right.
Why would you keep a small vial of cyanide in a big ass house when you're in fucking India? You defecate in the streets. You can just fucking throw it away anywhere and nobody will ever find it.
Yeah.
So Renji then tells the police the cyanide must still be there. And then the lawyer makes a good claim and says it seems like it could be planted. Why would it be sitting there all these years? The stories are way too calculated.
Yeah.
Removing Jolly's story. She doesn't have a fucking story. She's basically saying she did it. But was Renji setting her up? I don't think so, by the way. I'm just throwing that out there because it's just way too perfect. It's way too calculated. And the fact that Jolly was not arrested and no suspicion even given after all these years, after all these murders, but Renji seems to know everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hey,
yeah,
the trial's still going on right now. If anybody hears this from India, I'm just throwing things out there, you know?
Yeah. No, you're totally right. And I feel the same way, but I think she did it. I just wouldn't be surprised if they were like, we don't really have a lot of evidence, so let's plant the cyanide.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I think Renji wants to convict her so bad. And there's still a couple more scenes where Renji is, she becomes the main character in this documentary, actually. So I don't know. I don't know who did what, but yeah.
Yeah, so she becomes like the caretaker of Jolly's sons. And Jolly's son, who speaks in the documentary, Remo, the older one, he's like super appreciative of his aunt taking him in. And he's completely disowned his mom, which this kind of reminds me of Indrani Mukherjee's daughter as well, where she's like pulled between two sides of the family. It sucks to be that person, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, when family members are killing other family members, you're going to have to take a side. And hopefully it's not the side of the sharp knife. So
yeah, that's true. So Jolly's charged with 6 murders with 263 witnesses in the case. And I'm like, dude, just like how Desi people invite way too many people to their weddings, they have like way too many witnesses in their murder trials. Like, what the hell? 263? It's crazy.
I mean, Jolly had a lot of help. She had a lot of fans. So I don't know if these are witnesses on the defense's behalf or the prosecution's behalf, but the whole town knew what was up, right? So throughout the entire documentary, every time Jolly is arrested or moved from one location to the other, they bring her back to the house, by the way, to show them where the cyanide is. And they say she just gives it to them. So the entire town is standing outside the house, right? So they are all witnesses technically. Like
That's hilarious.
They're following her around, right? They're following her around.
Crazy. So then Renji basically says Jolly is a wolf in sheep's clothing. So the case is ongoing, like you said. They could not detect cyanide in any of the bodies that were exhumed except for Roy's. So apparently not even Alfine's. You're right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Roy was the only one that they can like definitively say that they see that there's cyanide in his body. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I don't know. Listeners, what do you think? Email us. Did she do it? jaiafterdark@jaiafterdark.com. I think she did it. And I think she did a pretty fucking good job because she was out and about and she got remarried. She was swinging.
Living her best life.
She was hooking up. She was being cool. I can count 3 different men that she was with, I guess, right?
Yeah. She's flamboyant.
She was flamboyant. She was having affairs. Hey, Jolly, if you're listening, come interview with us. Yeah,
oh my God. That would be, I don't know if I'm up for that. But this just made me think, I'm like, how many women have gotten away with murder like this? Like patriarchal society, you're like, okay, I'll, cook you food. I'll, do stuff for you. And then, suddenly people die of like heart attacks and strokes and whatnot, like, I was like, this is kind of scary.
I don't know. I don't want to think about this, but yeah, there's been people in our lives that have passed at an
Yeah.
early age, and there has been a serious lack of information and or autopsies. So I don't know how
Yeah.
much more we want to say, but yeah, like we live in a really weird, strange community. But come on, like there's murders and families all over this country in
Yeah.
the United
Yeah.
States, and just because there's a name for it in South Asian culture, it doesn't mean it's any different in other countries. But
Yeah.
I will say in the United States, I think I read where like a brother, he's more likely, to kill the entire family than the sister would. So
Oh, interesting.
that's a very verifiable percentage.
Well, Dave Chappelle had this funny bit where he talked about, I forget that one football player who got caught in an elevator punching his fiance.
Oh,
And
yeah. P. Diddy, right? No.
it was a football player. It was, I think, Miami Dolphins guy, maybe. I don't know.
It was like Ray Rice or something like
Ray
that.
Rice, you're right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's who it is. And Dave Chappelle was like, why would you want to live with a woman who you've punched with all your might? Right. He's like, it's like a color purple moment after that. He's like, every time she like shaves you or cooks any food for you or anything, you should be suspicious. And he's right.
Oh man. That is the one thing that I'm surprised Jolly didn't make any assertions about domestic abuse, because hey, if you can murder, you can lie, right? So
yeah,
she at least did not defame the family. She just killed them one at a time. Like, so what's worse?
Well, she did
having a bad rep or killing?
Yeah, well, she did say that Roy had debt when he
Save her
apparently
ass,
probably didn't have
right?
it.
Like,
Yeah,
because
that's
there
true.
had to be a reason for suicide. He was having struggles retaining a career and a job, though. That seemed obvious. But they also lived in a big family house, so who knows?
I also wouldn't be surprised if there's more like dirt in this family. Like maybe there is some crazy backstory, I don't know.
Oh, of course there is. No, totally. I agree with you. That first of all, every family has some level of drama. Maybe it's not crazy dirt, but this just seems a little bit too coincidental, a little bit too forgiving almost for her to get married back into the family, and then to have the cyanide sitting in the house 3 years later and she just hands it to them. What are they trying her for when she's already said multiple times that she's done it? So who knows? Like, I don't know what kind of law structure there is out there, but hey, all I know is Indrani, Jolly, there's a direct correlation between hot Desi women. Hey, Jolly wasn't hot, so I wish I wish she was. This would have made this episode fucking funny as hell.
No, she wasn't hot. She was flamboyant.
She was flamboyant. Hey,
and jolly.
It doesn't. Yeah, she was jolly. I'm sure she's a lot of fun. Aside from the cyanide and mushroom tablets. So
yeah,
she knows she knows how to have a good time, and she was a good cook. Everyone said so.
Oh yeah. She made some real good chickpea curry.
I don't know what we're laughing at. I think I'm scared. To get married again. Okay, we're on the paid feed, right? And I don't know how many of you got to the end of it. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say it here. My ex-wife wanted to start a true crime podcast, and Shabnam, you knew her, and she told you that too, probably. And she wanted to actually start it with her sister. All they did was listen to true crime all day, right? So eventually I was just like, are you going to kill me? Because it seems like your only interest is true crime. And now you want to start a podcast. Is it going to be a confessional? Like 6 episodes, and the 6th episode I'm
That's
gone?
Hilarious. That's crazy. Well, now she might, because you started a podcast without her. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if she she definitely knows that I have this podcast because of the Spotify story I told you a few months ago. But yeah, can feel footsteps behind me, and I'm not even married. So scared the shit out of me.
Oh man, that's just your conscience haunting you. Yeah.
Who have I screwed over in my past? Nobody even screwed over Jolly. That's like the craziest part. I know we're making jokes right now, but they took her in. Like, it didn't seem like they expected anything from her other than go get a fake job with your fake degree.
Yeah. Exactly. Supposedly, but that's Renji's side of the story. Maybe the mother-in-law beat her or something. I don't know. Like,
Hey,
I just feel like there's more to this story. I'm not saying she's justified in killing like these 6 people or whatever. Hell no. I'm just saying I just feel like there's more to this story.
Oh, there is something more to the story, and we don't know if this part's correct, but the last thing Renji says is Jolly tells her, I'm a criminal. I have a criminal mind. That's why it's easy for me to do this. So,
oh, yeah.
The last scene is Renji does pay a visit to Jolly, as you said, Shabnam, to take care of the kids. She says, stop calling your sons. They're my sons, essentially, now. So I think Renji is completely correct to take the kids, obviously, because...
Yeah. But that's some wild psychological trauma. These are my kids now, bitch. Like, and I don't know. There's some like eerie aspects of this that feels like a little unfinished.
She was in the house too, Renji said, that last night. Jolly was outside one of the kids' doors. So I think there was about to be a 7th murder. But it does seem like that. It's very... This is very eerily similar to Indrani Mukherjee, because Indrani also... sort of, remember, she like called Mikhail's over and she was about to kill him as well, and he kind of got drunk and she couldn't go through with it. We don't know what happened, but she did kill the sister. But this was strange. That I think there was going to be a 7th murder in this family. Of course, there was no way she was going to stop.
That's wild. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's enough of that. Now I gotta...
Are you scared?
I am, but I'm gonna order some desi food. Hold the cyanide though.
Dun, 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 dun. Hey, next time you come to San Diego, let's go to Casa Lahori again.
Oh, hell yeah.
So
we got
good. It's so good.
So good. Are we going to order some chickpea curry?
No. And I want to see them make the food, right? I'm going to stand in the back now.
Yeah.
I can't be sprinkling cyanide into my tandoori kebabs, dude.
Yeah.
Hey, Casa Lahori, sponsor us.
Oh, man.
All the kebabs.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Okay, well, it's not very festive, but why don't we throw a jingle on this murderous episode and get the fuck out of here?
Hell yeah. See you later, guys.
Enjoy your Vindaloo. See you later. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, 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 dun.